Hi everyone and welcome to this episode of the Lexit Founders Series. Today we have a very special guest, Iannique Renaud, a very famous entrepreneur who used to be a professional ice hockey player from Canada for 10 years. After this, he established a business in China, sold a very successful brand, and is now a blockchain crypto entrepreneur. Yanik, I believe now you are the owner and an investor in a Canadian crypto exchange called Smart Trade. Can you tell us a bit about this?
Yeah, it was launched recently. It's just, it's a cryptocurrency exchange that's launched in Canada. We'll have, we'll be regulated by FinTrack, and it's a new project that we're involved in. I've been passionate about crypto for a long time. So it will be the first, one of the first crypto exchange that really has crypto to fiat pairings on all the coins, and we'll also have cold storage on the exchange, and a lot of really neat features. Of course, blockchain and crypto I'm passionate about, and that's where that's kind of the direction I'm heading after all these kind of life events that I've gone through. And I'm just excited to move on to the next chapter of my life.
Yeah, definitely. That's a chapter we're going to keep an eye on. But I think, when you're talking about those life events, you had a very full life. Can you tell us a bit your story? So you were a professional hockey player, right? Can you tell us about this?
I was a professional hockey player. I didn't really go the traditional corporate entrepreneur route. I was, when I was 16 years old, 17, I left home to play professional hockey. And I ended up having a 10 to 12 year professional career in the United States. I had kind of a very strange job because in hockey, I was also, they call them the goons, one of the fighters. So I was one of the tougher players, but it was just the role that I had to play to be on the team. And after spending about 10, 12 years, I retired when I was 28 years old. And looking out, and since we didn't really finish university and all my friends did, and I'm going back home and moving back to my small town, I realized the fame is gone, and the girls and the life and everything just disappears. And you say, well, who am I now? So there was a lot of soul searching on what to do next.
And I believe when you were an ice hockey player, you were already kind of an entrepreneur, right? And so this is the path you chose to go on then?
Yeah, I was, because I remember always thinking about business, even when I was playing hockey. I remember being fairly young, and there's about 20,000 people to come and watch our games. And I had started it was just a crazy idea because we didn't really play in the summer. I started a lawn mowing company to mow lawns in the summer, and I'd hired people and bought these lawnmowers. But in the winter, I would print flyers and hire these people. While I was playing, I would put the flyers in all the windshields, and I would say, "We mow like a pro." And so all the fans could call my company in the summer to hire my crew to fix their yards.
Oh, that's just amazing. And so when you start being a professional hockey player, what led you to the path of entrepreneurship again?
I think it's difficult. It was so difficult to transition from professional sports to a real life because you just don't have that skill set that normal people do, but you have the passion and you have the drive. So I had to really rely on my sports background in entrepreneurship to move me forward. I actually ended up not knowing what I was doing in life, and I had won a ticket to travel to China, and I hopped on a plane. It was actually in the middle of SARS. There was like an outbreak here, and there was about 3 people on the plane going to China because everybody was afraid. And I was on that plane, and I came into China. I don't know if I was not right in the mind, but I did it anyways, and I got off the plane. And it was supposed to be 3 months, and I forgot to leave, and I've been here for 15 years.
Right, that's amazing. And so you arrived in China, you were supposed to stay 3 months, you stayed 15 years, and I believe you started a barbecue company, a grill, selling grills. Is that what you did?
Yeah, no, I started out in my house because I moved here in 2, 3 years. We just call it bumming around, kind of being an expat, trying to figure out what you're going to do in life, kind of spending all my sports money and just not knowing what to do next. And I realized that I started a barbecue grill company because, there was a lot of these foreigners, they call them foreigners here, or expats living here, and they didn't have barbecue grills. So I ended up sourcing some from the factories and putting them in my house. And people would come to my house to buy these machines right out of my living room.
All right, that's great. And so you started this company, and I believe you started another company afterwards, right?
Yeah,
Renault Air.
that's right. That was my first company, which was just kind of my footstep into entrepreneurship. And then I ended up marrying a Chinese wife, and we got married. And one of the when we had our first baby, and that's actually the age of my business. When my first baby, Hunter, now he's 10 years old, he got sick. He got a severe respiratory condition when he was sleeping in his room. I had to rush him to the hospital because he was gasping for air. Just and so, as a parent, you're extremely concerned. And they ended up putting a ventilator on him, and then it calmed down. And then we thought he was okay. And the next night, the same thing happened again. Had to rush him to the hospital. And just in the back of my mind, I was wondering, well, how can I help my own son? And I ended up doing some reading about air cleaning machines. We call them air purifiers here. I ended up buying a couple, doing some research, and I put them in his room. And literally 2, 3 days later, he was cured from his respiratory condition. And I said, oh my God, well, I must not be the only parent with 1.6 billion people in China that have this problem. They probably need help as well. And same thing, I ended up purchasing 5 of these machines, putting them in my living room, in the spare bedroom, selling 5 through the classified ads, and then having enough money. Well, I actually ended up using my wedding money to buy these machines, because in China you get money and not gifts. And so it was about $5,000. And I had actually kind of lied to the factories a little bit, because you could only buy like 300, and I couldn't buy 300 because I thought, oh, what if I don't sell them? So I lied, and I said I had 5 offices around the world, and they believed me. But I put the 5 in my bedroom, and I ended up selling those, and then buying 10. You call it a white lie. And then I ended up buying 20, and then 30, and then just doubling every time until I was buying containers, until I was buying thousands. And yeah, at some point I was in my house, and my wife says, okay, well, you have a roommate, we have a baby, you have air purifiers all over the place, you have barbecues all over the place, well, go get your own office. So I sat in my office, pen and paper, taking orders. So people weren't coming to buy at my house anymore. And I got an assistant, and then, got my marketing manager, operations, secretaries, and grew the business from there. And I ended up with, a headquarter in Shanghai, another office in Hong Kong, another office in Beijing, and some distributors, and just growing the business up to about 50 employees. And I've been running that for the last, I know, because it's the age of my son, who's 10 years old.
All right, that's amazing. And so I believe you exited this company quite recently, actually. This was a year-long process. What motivated you to decide to sell this company and not continue the business yourself?
Well, I think I grew the business to a certain level where I never took any capital injections or any investments. So I was running on my own money. And at a certain point, the rest of the market realized that there was an opportunity, and a lot of the big players came into the market. So a lot of my margins were getting, were dwindling, operation costs were getting higher. And a lot of the big boys were starting to come and play. We're talking Philips and Honeywell, and they have a lot of backing. And I could either take on a large amount of investment and try to compete against them, or I could look for an exit if I was unable to be successful in an exit, it could also mean failure as well, because you need to pick your wars as well, and you need to pick the wars that you can win. And so my decision was to exit. But luckily, I hadn't even started to search. A larger hygiene company approached me. You know, they had 30 to 40 offices in Taiwan, Shanghai, Hong Kong, about 1,000 employees.
And at that time, you had 50 employees, 50.
Yeah, I had 50 employees, and I had actually started to cut down on the number of employees because I was looking to exit, and I just wanted to create stability in the business. And yeah, I started negotiating with them, and I was, I guess it's about 11 months later. I think today might have been one of my last days at the office.
That's amazing. And so, you know, at Lexit, what we're trying to do is to make this whole exit process much easier for entrepreneurs by creating a platform that will be kind of like an Airbnb, you know, where you can just go see, okay, this company is worth X, and to make this whole process really easy to buy as well as sell, but also to find all the experts you need to help you in this process. Yeah. So my question is, you exited this company. How long did it take? How hard was the process, etc.? So I suppose so 1 year, that's a long time, right?
Yeah, extremely long time. It was extremely tough. I'm part of a group called the Entrepreneurs Organization, and it's a lot of entrepreneurs to get together. They have X amount of turnover, and we're able to help each other. But without kind of any outside advice, or if I was just stuck in my own bubble, it would have been it was a nightmare, but without support of my other entrepreneurial friends, it would have been even worse. It was extremely messy, disorganized. I don't have an M&A background. I'm just an entrepreneur. We go out and we do it, and we run a company. You know, everybody wants to act cool, like they know what's happening, but nobody really knows what's happening. You know, you got your lawyers and you got everybody just shoving stuff down your throat, what you should do next. And it just kind of gets overwhelming after a while. And it gets expensive because you need to hire the right people to help you understand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you were acquired by a company much larger than yours. Didn't you feel at some point in this process like David versus Goliath, like you were this small entity with no specific legal expertise in M&A, faced with this, you know, acquisition machine that was very well trained for this, actually, with a lot of legal support? Did you at some point feel like the balance of power wasn't really fair?
Yeah, because we didn't have in-house lawyers or like they did. We were maybe the 12th or 13th company they've acquired. The CEO of that particular company, what he does for a living, part of his growth strategy. He will go out and acquire smaller companies as opposed to organic growth. So I'm communicating with him on a daily basis initially, and then he's putting me over to his finance team who are communicating with me, and then he's putting over to his legal team who are communicating with me, and I just have me trying to do this deal. But they have it all properly segmented and all their processes kind of laid out internally, but it's all being funneled down to me, which is, I guess you learn by doing. I learned a tremendous amount by going through the process, and I made a lot of mistakes, but hey, you make mistakes and you learn from them, and better entrepreneur for it as well.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel happy with the deal you had? Do you think that was the right valuation of your company and you got, you know, what it was worth?
No, but yes. I probably feel I could have got about, I made some key mistakes because I didn't really understand the process. You go through the term sheet, you go through due diligence, you go through the final sales contract, and everything's kind of flooded onto you. And the bigger boys, the guys that do this all the time, they kind of know where to pick you, how to twist and turn things. So I think I probably could have got 20 to 40% more if I knew what I know now. If I knew what the process was going into this, but it's okay. I think we learn from this and we move on. But I know Lexit is kind of setting up this this program on the blockchain. I absolutely wish I would have had some easier guidance on what the steps were, as opposed to just experiencing everything without knowing what's going to happen next.
Definitely. I think this is very scary what you said, that you could have got 20 to 40% more. That is a huge amount. That is, if you had been properly helped, you could have had much more. That is, yeah, I think there is a lot of need to support entrepreneurs in this process then.
Yeah, it's okay. But yeah, if there was some sort of documentation on what the steps are, and you just can follow this flow, it would have been so much easier. But unfortunately, the market is very fragmented, and I can see, the M&A firms, the lawyers, they keep it this way for a reason, because they can charge the fees.
Of course. And so I had another question. How did these people find you, the company that acquired your company? How did they find you?
They actually found us because our salespeople would go out to different companies and sell our products, etc. They had invited them over a few times, and the CEO was actually quite simple. He had reached out to one of my general managers to approach me to find me, but I think I got extremely lucky. Very lucky in that case. I'm not sure. Then at the time, I wouldn't have known kind of where to look on how to sell my company, besides just kind of reaching out randomly.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, it seems like it was amazing timing, right? You were thinking about exiting your company, and then bam, you have this huge company reaching out to you to buy it. That seems like, yeah, great timing.
Yeah, no, it's just luck. I wish there was more of a kind of a marketplace or some place we could go, but you don't know where to go. You're just kind of, as entrepreneurs, you're just hoping.
Definitely. And so I think you also have been on the other side. You also bought a few companies. Can you tell us about your experience doing this?
Yeah, I had acquired a mattress brand, and recently we acquired I guess a larger minority stake in Smart Trade. But at the same time, we as entrepreneurs, we're just kind of jumping into this. We don't necessarily have all the legal backing, going out and having our teams to do the due diligence and checking on the finance and looking at the audited books, etc. We're kind of going on gut feeling. So somehow having some sort of infrastructure, I think, is definitely needed, because there's levels to the game. The bigger you get, the more resources you have. The smaller you are, you have nothing. So I would consider myself, kind of mid-size, but without the resources of the big boys either.
Mm-hmm. All right. And so you are the founder of Post-Capitalism, and I really like your catchphrase. You have a vision to create 1 million millionaires. Can you tell us about this?
Yeah, well, I'm one of the co-founders. I had a friend of mine who developed the technology, and he developed the platform. And this particular kind of crypto fund, we're actually still trying to figure out what to do with it, which kind of goes into what Lexit has, because we've built this amazing kind of technology, but that attaches to different crypto exchanges. We can manage all our trades internally through different, artificial intelligence, trading strategies, etc. But we have the technology, but we haven't really fully developed the business yet. So we're still wondering, what do we do with this core technology that is built for that we've built for 2 years? So it's very much kind of a startup with very cool tech. But again, I had actually met Amir a while back, and he had mentioned, well, a lot of these companies have very cool tech, but maybe they don't know what to do with it, or some of it just kind of let it die somewhere where other companies can use it. So I don't know if we're at that stage or not, but it reminds me of what Amir has told me in the past.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, one of the points of Lexit is also to be a marketplace for intellectual property, for IP. And so, for example, if you create an amazing tech, but you can't exploit it in a business, a money-making business, you can sell this on Lexit, and another startup can buy it and turn it into a profitable business. So I think it's very important. As you were saying before, there are different levels to this game, right? And if you're a small entrepreneur, it's very hard to sell part of your company, to buy maybe some code, some tech that you are going to need if you're not a very big player. So I think this Lexit platform can really help many entrepreneurs actually growing their company and letting it.
Yeah, it's just a lack of visibility that the small entrepreneurs have. We have nowhere to like scream to the masses and say, hey, we have something cool. There is no place right now for that.
Definitely. So thank you very much for this interview. I'd like maybe, to ask you some final words. I think you're great entrepreneurs. There's no doubt about this. What would be your advice for the entrepreneurs or wannabe entrepreneurs watching this video right now?
I think for me, it goes back to, I guess, my athlete kind of fighter days. Is 99% of the people actually have great ideas, but they also never start. And I think success kind of lies on the other side of fear.
All right. Amazing closing words. Thank you so much, Yanik, for joining us for this interview.
Thank you.
And thanks to our viewers watching this episode of the Lexit Founders Series. See you at the next one.
Okay, bye.